I'm pretty sure it's safe to say a lot of you either know me from my Planet Dob review or were here before that dreaded video and now can never escape this stone toss reject character design. From the people who showed me support for taking the time to create such a cinema masterpiece, to the other comments who tried to gaslight me about the music in the game being the same as the album multiple times. It's pretty obvious without the Planet Dob video, my community and probably channel as a whole would be way different in some way. I still find it crazy even after the video has been out for almost 2 years. I still get comments from people telling me new discoveries the community has made for the preservation and history of the series and music from the band. But even with all their efforts, some things still get forgotten or never see the light of day, with this topic being no exception. Now, I'm sure you've seen the title of the video and are wondering, and yes, this is a real thing, and I'm here to talk about it. Let's take a Dob dive into the world of the forgotten Dob Nintendo 64 game, Planet Dob 64. Now, for those who aren't up to speed on Planet Dob, I'll do a quick crash course here. You see, originally the concept for our guy came from an obscure Japanese band called Date of Birth, who came together in the city Fukuoka that isn't Tokyo, so most people don't even know where this is. All I know is that some guy named Freezax lives there, and that's more than enough reason to avoid it at all cost. Date of Birth consists of 4 members, Noriko and her 2 brothers and husband, with the main person we're going to be really talking about today being Kenichi. With Kenichi being the person who designed our lovable Dob character. They made quite a few albums, which was something I did get wrong in my original video, with their last album being released in 2006 and having it be a compilation of their music called Golden Best. But their career for Date of Birth dates back to 1985 with Around Plus Around, but it even goes further back than that, before they got their iconic name Date of Birth, which is only slightly easier to find info on them now than it used to be. They had a previous band called Mind Control, with 2 of their first songs being Red Enamel and Don't Break My Heart. All in all, it's safe to retract my statement of this band not being known in Japan as once thought, since they had songs appear in shows and films. Most notable film being Toho's Tobiya wo Akete. I probably butchered that, whatever. But they got their big break in 1999 when the hit game Planet Dob came on the PS1, both figuratively and literally. He's still not allowed at the Sony offices to this day because of that. This was the biggest hit in Japan to the point it was able to beat out none other than Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the movie in total sales. Yes, you heard that. Planet Dob took down the juggernaut that Honey, I Shrunk the Kids was. But sadly, after the game's release, the band went radio silent until they would get their biggest break yet. Now, you want to know why the band went silent? Well, you're at the right place, because my dad actually worked at the company we will be talking about. You see, while Sony was too busy fumbling the bag that was Planet Dob, another small indie company was in the process of wanting to get a taste of that Dob goodness, and they also were willing to look the other way about the PS1 glazing fiasco and give Dob another chance. So Nintendo went ahead and reached out to Sony about purchasing the rights to Planet Dob, as they were in the process of making a hit 3D platformer for the Nintendo 64, with none other than Miyamoto leading the team. However, with Nintendo only having 2 games under their belt at the time, one being a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids fighting game, and the other being Honey, I Shrunk the Kids fast speed racing, it's safe to say they needed a real heavy hitter to push the company in the right direction. During the meeting between the head director of Sony being Joe Johnston, mostly known for his involvement in the film industry with such hits as Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves and Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, Nintendo really had to have their A game with negotiating this deal, because if it didn't work, well, they're going bankrupt, buddy. Come on, let's be real. It was said during the meeting, Joe kept asking Miyamoto if he's well versed in jars and being shrunken down and put inside said jars. So the meeting lasted 5 minutes and Nintendo was able to walk out with their new mascot Dob and all the rights to the band's music. Now that Dob was acquired by Nintendo, the next issue arose. How do we even make a 3D platformer? Thankfully, they did have a project already being worked on by a team. This was known as Super Mario 64. Now, I know most of you have probably never heard of Mario besides the commercial he did to advertise the hit movie, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and his real-life appearance on the anti-drug campaign he did after being caught with an 8-ball.
And if you do drugs, you go to hell before you die.
Mario 64's development began in 1994, with September 7th being the official start of what was known at the time Ultra 64 Mario Brothers. Luckily for us, the development history of this is well documented, and because of that, we know this game went through many, and I mean many, changes before they settled on Dob. Seeing a lot of these early screenshots and patent builds, it was a huge jump and quite an ambitious product to be made for a company with only 2 games on their portfolio. We were even able to see quite a lot of footage for what they had so far for their Space World 95 event, plus a full playable demo at the Ultra 64 World Premiere at Nintendo Shonshinkai. One thing you can tell is just how different the game looks to the final release, with the castle interior and exterior being one of the first things most players notice. Sadly, a lot of people who tried the demo weren't impressed. They described the game feeling nothing like how Honey, I Shrunk the Kids felt, with one woman being so distraught she was seen crying as she left the room. Everyone felt the game lacked tightness and was slippery, and inputs felt unresponsive, causing the team to really rethink their approach on how they would go forward with the creation of the game. It was this event that soon led Miyamoto down a dark, depressive episode. Miyamoto one night was walking around Fukuoka as he ended up getting lost on his way back to his hotel near Shibuya. He really was distraught and hurt by the mean things the bullies at the event were saying about his beloved game, with the attendees saying when Miyamoto left, he was heard yelling back, "I know you are, but what am I?" During his walk, Miyamoto did a lot of reflecting, really asking himself if the obscure character they based off Mark Henry, known for his WWE years, was truly a good fit. Miyamoto just knew Mario wasn't going to be liked, and maybe having the random homeless guy out back to voice the plumber character, as they didn't want to pay for Mark Henry to come to Japan, wasn't the right move. But to have everyone say the things they did, it broke Miyamoto's heart. Because of this, nobody saw him for 3 days until he just showed up. But when he did, everyone could see a fire had started to form. Miyamoto told everyone, "We need Dob." Jet Jaguar, Miyamoto's right-hand man at the time, quoted this when he saw Miyamoto walk into the office.
"It was like watching a bustling stud trying to mount his mare. Something was cooking, and we all knew nothing was going to stop Miyamoto from impregnating his ideas into all of us. To say my chair was wet, would be an understatement."
Turns out, during his walk, he ran into a song that every Dob fan is familiar with. How Do You Think slowly filled the area as a random store was showing off the Planet Dob PS1 trailer. Miyamoto couldn't believe how amazing and breathtaking this hidden game appeared to be. Seeing Dob run around and Dob out, Miyamoto knew right then and there, this is the mascot they needed. He would be the one to carry Nintendo to being the respected company they all knew it could be. This would give the chance for Miyamoto to show those trolls he was right this whole time. Now, after getting Dob and having the already built demo to work with, the first changes started to come, with Miyamoto calling in a guy who goes by the name Dinpake, most known for his work on, you guessed it, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. It comes full circle every time, dude. Dinpake's major role in the film was actually playing the ant character, and apparently he was known to actually transform his whole bone structure to achieve the look. Dinpake was tasked with getting rid of the old stinky Mario design and formed Dob to fit on the heavy advanced Nintendo 64. We went ahead and asked Dinpake how long it took him to do all this, and he quoted, "I guess a few weeks." Something as well that he did was add the bits, which are the collectibles in Planet Dob, to be pets that can follow you and be interacted with the help from Wibless for making the Whittle Pets mod. They were able to bring this to life. When the day came to show Miyamoto the newest addition they added, apparently he didn't realize it was something in the game and just assumed the roaches had evolved and threw a shoe at the TV to kill the pest. Everyone had to go home that day as this was the only TV they had in the office. Other changes were added like a night and day system, weather effects, and most importantly, a gun. Thanks to Profe Javix, a physics designer on the dev team, he took what a lot of people said about the controls and gameplay feeling lackluster into account. So what better way to spice up the movement by giving Dob a Texas approach on dealing with the situation, letting him go into first person to shoot enemies in his way, or even add more height to his jump? It was said they got the idea from seeing Donkey Kong with a real life gun in the beta of DK64, but instead of letting Rare have such a cool idea for their game, Miyamoto gaslighted Rare into thinking that a coconut gun would be way cooler. We can see why DK64 flopped hard. The weather system also created by Agent X was the hardest part to get right, with Agent X quoting, "The rain was the toughest challenge as we wanted to get it to look as real as possible. The way I achieved this was by turning on my faucet and letting the sink overflow. This allowed me to see how water falls due to the effects of gravity, and as a result, create the insane weather effects you see in the game. My landlord was not happy." The weather effects with the day and night cycle brought one of the realest and advanced games the Nintendo 64 has ever seen. Luckily for us gamers, we only had to wait a few more years for Planet Dob 64 to drop, and when it did, the impact it's still talked about to this day.
Dob is back for a brand new adventure! Soar to the skies with super cat powers. Radical platforming. Encounter ferocious beasts. Insane boss battles. Take your enemies out with your trusty shotgun. Even go in the first person to really give them a taste. Explore expansive world. From the chilly mountains to the deadly lava
Super lounge music.
pool. Are you up to the task?
Yeah.
Get ready for the biggest 3D adventure.
Easily.
Only on Nintendo 64.
The one thing I can say from the get-go is just how pretty this came out to be compared to the beta screenshots. Seeing that nasty old Mario design replaced with Giga Chad Dob shows Miyamoto knew what the fuck was up. Having the bit from the game follow you around and even being able to pet him is a dream that I never even knew I wanted. And we can't forget about Dob holding a fucking shotgun. Yeah, this is a treat. You can even go first person as I mentioned before, but while Dob may be shiny and full of life, the weather sure isn't. But that won't let our space cop be stopped from reaching the end. Till I realized, I don't even know why I'm here. Well, entering the castle has some guy, never mind, I skipped the text. Now, Kenichi really had to tone down his level of detail and design this time around, because if he kept the aesthetic from the PS1 days, the Nintendo 64 would shrink and form into a black hole, unable to handle the power of Kenichi's work. This becomes apparent real quick when you see these mushroom guys all blocky and gross, not smooth like Dob here. Thankfully, we could shoot them and they disappear. Modern cop moment. With nowhere to really go inside the castle besides this room, we head in and see what looks to be a picture of some bombs. When we jump into the painting to see what would occur, we're then transported to downtown Detroit. This is when Dob decides the first course of action is to shoot the nearest guy he sees because his tint was too dark or something. He actually never said why in the police report. I was quite surprised how fun the gun was to use, going into first person mode and taking out whatever is in my path. I think honestly, Sega should really take note of this and give one of its characters a gun and plan a whole game around it. I'm sure it would be loved and not hated at all. While exploring around, we see this golden star inside a cage. If you have a keen eye, you would have noticed the doors inside the castle had stars on them with numbers next to it. This probably means they're important, but a weird dog is blocking the cage. We shoot it and reap our rewards. We will just go ahead and put the dog had an expired tag or something in the report. After getting the star, this is when the gameplay loop clicked with me. You see, have you ever played Time Splitters 2? Yeah, no, neither have I. Dob is tasked to go around the map and collect these stars, as they will only be our way of progressing through the castle, as the majority of the doors are locked behind them. In total, Miyamoto was able to get 120 stars in the game to match his body count, as he felt that was really important for some reason. I spent a good amount of time trying to hop onto the floating island, even using my gun jump boost powers, and after a while of failing, I decided to just head up to the mountain. We then ran into this well-established gentleman. Dob did try to shoot him, but he seemed unfazed, which is an issue because Dob only knows to shoot first and file a fake report later. Turns out the way you beat this guy is by going behind him and throwing him. Do this 3 times and the majestic man blows up. Dob ended up telling me for the report we'll just put parked in a fire lane. I guess while Dob does the paperwork, I'll go ahead and mention the music. Strangely, this sounds nothing like anything Data Birth has ever produced, which throws me off since Nintendo made sure to get the rights to all their music for the game. And before anyone says, I already know someone's gonna gaslight me and tell me that this is Data Birth's music, trust me, I already know it. But after doing some research, it turns out Miyamoto did some more, dare I say, girl boss moments, and this was supposed to be in Banjo and Kazooie, another platformer being made by Rare. Miyamoto apparently just hated Rare and was able to convince them to swap their music out for hit songs made by a guy known as Just an RPG, who's quite famous for making tracks about climbing inside the legendary Pokemon Reshiram and expressing his love for it. I can see why Banjo and Kazooie flopped. Going back to the game, we ended up racing a drug mule to the top of the mountain, but the footage is horrible to watch as it was aggressively raining and also nighttime. We, however, won by the way, and Dob put on the paperwork, license plate cover blocked the view of plates. Man apparently didn't even own a car. Back in the castle, Dob and I decided to check out another door since we earned a good amount of stars. I noticed as soon as we got here, it was still raining. And this is when I kind of realized it was always kind of constantly raining. But then when you learn the castle was built in the Amazon rainforest, it starts to make sense. While I was wandering around, we noticed that this area had a lot of red coins just laying around, 8 in fact. Well, this is apparently one of the reoccurring mission types. Each stage will have 8 red coins hidden around the level that you need to locate. Once all of them are grabbed, you will gain a star. But I got a bit curious since we had almost 100 coins. I decided to see what would happen if I got 100 of them, since in the demo it was rumored you would get an extra life. Turns out a star drops. This will easily help us complete the quest faster. Once I started to feel like I had the hang of this game, I noticed I was able to start getting stars out of order. As each time you head inside a painting, you get a list of them to pick from. It felt really rewarding to be able to use my gun to break the game and reach areas I needed other means to get to. I think it really shows just how well Miyamoto understood platforming and level design. With my pro gamer skills, I managed to skip to the top without doing the long boring platforming section. But this is when we run into an Amazon worker who was upset that they do everything and still get walked all over. Dob, being the understandable guy, decided the best course of action was to ground pound his back, breaking his spine. We put on the report company embezzlement. Dob was then forced to leave the world as he needed to be transferred again for his crimes. I mean, good cop duties. This is when we saw what looked to be a light shining down on us, so we decided to look up to investigate. Holy shit! What the fuck? So yeah, apparently Dob64 decided the gun wasn't enough and added power caps. This one being the wing cap. It allows you to fly around and go at insane speeds. It's not the most useful thing ever, as it only really opens up 2 stars in the first stage and makes some of the other ones easier to get, but it's cool either way. It's now 10:35 p.m. and Dob was called to check out a rat's nest in the castle, and once we manage to climb into the hole, we get transported to a room full of water with 8 red coins litter about. These are apparently the castle's secret stars, and there's quite a few to find around the place. My favorite one being the slide area that has 2 of them to find. One for beating the slide normally and getting to the end, and the other for doing it in less than 21 seconds. So guess Dob and I will need to be on the lookout for these bad boys. In the same room is a painting of a pirate ship. Inside we see a sprawling water world. Since this is the first real time we will be actually swimming, I wanted to talk about the controls. Swimming around is actually quite nice. Dob feels fast and quick to move up or down, but whenever you need to grab something is when the swimming can be a bit annoying. I find Dob's swim speed to be kind of fast. It's fine for getting around, but when I need to be precise, I end up really needing to put all my power into focusing. There's also a weird thing with getting hit. If you ever somehow take damage underwater, you shoot up to the surface like a fucking bullet. This doesn't happen every time, as I've had moments where I went down instead, but it seems to occur at least 99% of the time whenever you take damage. Hey look, it's the pirate ship we saw. We now arrive in the snow world. This place has a nice aesthetic to it, with a bunch of penguins just doing whatever here. The only real mission of note here is the mama penguin that wants her baby back, who I seem to struggle with for an hour trying to grab. You may also be wondering why my little bit buddy is now green. Well, my red one decided to jump off and die. I then had a blue one, and he may or may not have gotten kicked off the mountain by some asshole. So yeah, that's why he's green. We go ahead and get the baby and bring it back to the mother and get rewarded with a power star. Dob, however, still upset how long it took us to get the child, decided to kill it by dropping it off the map and turning around and shooting the mother in the fucking face. We put on the paperwork jaywalking. I don't think it's gonna hold up though. The snow world was probably the hardest area so far. Thankfully, Dob can get his anger out like any normal cop would. In the basement area, Dob ended up having to face the dreaded reality of his horrible actions. We ended up encountering a courtyard of ghosts. Ghost of everyone Dob has murdered. I mean, rightfully shot legally. So you may be wondering what Dob's course of action is after seeing this dreaded reality in front of him. He just started to shoot at the ghost and somehow it worked and killed it. We're now at a haunted mansion and not really much to talk about here besides a bunch of apparitions littering about, and we had to take them out because Dob hates loitering. Also, before you ask, shooting the piano does nothing. Well, after these levels were cleared, I noticed I really didn't have anywhere else to go, as every other part I could enter was locked and needed a key, besides this red star door. Once inside, a hallway greets us with a painting of a lady at the end. But the closer we get, it soon changes to a weird demon. When we drop through the floor, we get some text from a stray. I skipped it again, sorry, god fucking damn it. This level seems to be a platform gauntlet, with it getting tougher as we progress. Fire blazing everywhere with enemies and electric circles that spin around. To say I died here a lot would be true, but fuck you for asking. We make it to the end to be greeted by shooting him does nothing. So what is Dob supposed to do? Well, the same thing we did to King Bomb. Grab that ass and toss him. I said grab that ass and toss him. I said grab that ass and toss him. There we go. After seeing him defeated, we gain access to a key that can get us to the other locked areas. Once down in the stinky basement, we end up finding another star door, and I'm able to enter with no issue this time around. But at the end of the hallway is this weird blue goo barrier. Jumping inside teleports us to another water world. Instantly, this happens. Not wanting to bother with that stage for now, we find a yellow rabbit and chase him. Thankfully, Dob is used to chasing criminals, and once caught, we're given a star. Dob, however, shot him even though the rabbit surrendered. We put unpaid parking ticket on the paperwork. Just like the heat Dob will get from that public execution he just performed, here we are at the first lava area. You will notice right away how flat the world is, meaning we can do insane skips like this one. Now, you're probably assuming if you touch the lava, you instantly die. But no, Dob, being built different, can use the lava to bounce around 3 times, giving him more momentum to move around. But trust me, this skill is only for the masters, as it's super easy to die from this. Exploring around, we find some enemies who bully Dob for being too cool, and we knock them into the lava to show them who's boss. And there's also a volcano we can enter that has these bricks that float on a path. The platforming here can get pretty tough, but thankfully, I'm an expert who can do any challenge that comes my way. If you explore around the castle enough, you'll find areas that we can't even access yet that also don't require a key, which can be solved by finding puzzles and completing them. Like this one here that has us swim into the pool of water to hit 2 pillars that will then drain the moat outside for us to go into the sewers, which somehow ends up being a huge expansive area with a bunch of red coins and a new power cap, the invisible cap. All this does is let us walk through some walls and get a few stars. Overall, this is probably the most useless power-up in the whole game, in my opinion. Finally, it's time to head into the second Bowser level. This one is another platforming gauntlet with lava under you as far as the eye can see, with this place making the last Bowser stage look like a Chuck E. Cheese.
What's wrong with you, man?
Yeah, no, I died a lot. Mostly because of these stupid red coins, man. But with Dob on my side, we managed to make it to Bowser. And just like the fight from before, we grab that stinky bitch and toss him all the way downtown. Ooh, another key. Now, before we head to the top area, I decided to go visit a world in the basement that I kind of neglected for a long time, mostly because I don't really like it. Shifting Sandland can either be one of the more infuriating places to be at or interesting. Like, for instance, I love the bird guy here who can steal your hat and you have to knock into him for a star. Plus, I love that the bird only appears here and nowhere else. It ends up being a nice way to give this place some more originality, with it only getting better once you're able to go inside the pyramid and fight the dreaded Two Hands. I wonder if he would be my right-hand man at my future wedding. Now, while these aspects of Shifting Sandland are nice, everything else, not so much. A lot of these mission names can be quite obtuse, especially the last one where you're supposed to grab these 5 coins in the pyramid, with your only hint for this being pyramid puzzle. Plus, mix the vague hints with areas that lead to instant death or slow your run and hinder your jump altogether. This place becomes an annoyance before long. In fact, maybe this is a hot take, but all the levels on the top floor all have these issues. The starting place in the basement, besides the sand plays, have more open levels with no real instant death traps. Even in the lava zone, you get chances to recover back on land, so you don't instantly die if you touch the lava. I get these stages are supposed to be harder, but when we go from the highs of Bomb Bomb Battlefield to the dreaded Sky stage that feels like the world designer for Sonic Frontiers made a level and threw whatever into a huge open map that would feel Mario-like, with most things killing you here being the endless abyss below, I just kind of started getting annoyed. The only cool stages at the top are these two because a monkey steals your hat and I like very vertical areas, and then Tiny Huge Island just for the gimmick. But actually traversing this place still sucks. Tick-Tock Clock would be better as a Mario DS track. Oh wait. And the other ice world that I didn't even go to feels like it was the first draft for the penguin place. At least though, with all these awful areas on top, I can always go back to Hazing Maze Cave and turn to Metal Dob and shoot the only remaining Plesiosaurus to get my anger out. Now, the last world I want to touch on is Wet Dry World. So while at first glance, this stage seems pretty unremarkable, till you really do some research into the map. So if you decide to swim into this area here, you will run into what seems to be a sunken forgotten city. Well, what if I told you this wasn't any ordinary city, but it was in fact Five Nights at Freddy's. Anyways, I don't want to play these shit worlds, so let's BLJ our way to Bowser. The final Bowser stage is upon us, and man, I will go ahead and just reuse the same thing I said before. It's a platforming gauntlet. We end up reaching Bowser and he calls me Mario because the localizers didn't do their job right. I throw him 3 times and bam, we finally beat Dob 64. Dob takes to the skies as we fly out to the castle, and then a girl appears. That girl being none other than, I actually don't know who that is, to be honest. It probably would have explained in the text, that I skipped at the start of the game. She gives Dob a kiss, I guess, and we head inside to eat cake. And that was Dob 64, the greatest Nintendo 64 game to ever exist. Or is what I would say if it did exist. Now, have you heard of the Mandela effect? Well, that is just a made-up thing that people do because they suck ass at remembering things. But going back on topic, Dob 64 actually never saw the light of day. Don't get me wrong, this game is out and can be played with all the same levels you saw here, but Dob isn't in the game. Well, remember how I said the band went radio silent? That's because Dob actually died. Before the game's release, he was found in a high-speed collision through a Burger King. To this day, we don't know who was driving, but some say It was the director of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, with that being Playboy Cardi. It's rumored that Playboy Cardi was so upset about Dob taking the spotlight from the hit franchise he knew Honey, I Shrunk the Kids would be, that he offered Dob a ride, and well, no one ever saw Dob alive after that. This made Miyamoto heartbroken, and since Dob was gone, he didn't want the game to be haunted for using his likeness, so they went back to the Mario model. And that's why Nintendo went bankrupt back in 2007. Mario 64 single-handedly crashed the gaming market, and now only Leapfrog games remain supreme. But yeah, I'm the only person with a copy now, and I waited this long to show you guys, but I think we can finally put Dob to rest for good. After I sell this ROM online for 4 dillion Dobbers, let's go, baby, let's make the money! It's time for the Patreon readings. We have Annie, Tofar Love again, Emiko the Kid, Quality CQ, and Burger Diver Banando. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the April Fool's video. I had a lot of fun making it. It was stupid, but you know, I had fun. If you want to support me on Patreon, it's only $1, or you can do the 5 if you want. But anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.